Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Baking with Confidence. My name is Natalie, and I have challenged myself to cook every single recipe in Claire Saffitz' Dessert Person Cookbook. This week we are making, I believe, the double apple crumble cake. Let's get into this. The double apple crumb cake. It sounds like such a warm and inviting cake that you can make almost any time of the year. It's currently winter where I am, and I think this sounds like an absolutely heartwarming dish to have this weekend. So, glancing over the recipe, this seems like everyday, soulful, warm spices that you can find almost year-round, including something that you might not have in your pantry all the time, but that would be apple butter. Now, I might have gone a little overboard with this because I can't just, in my good soul, know that I went to the store and bought apple butter. I think my grandmother would come after me with a stick. In my family, we have been making apple butter for years and years and years, passed from one family member to the next, and I have been making my own apple butter, a version of the family recipe for many years now. So what did I decide to do? I opened up my cupboard and found that I had eaten all of my apple butter that I had made back in the fall, and I quickly went up to the store to make some more. So I'm using my own personal homemade apple butter. On my blog, you will see a little recipe that will show you how to make apple butter at home and different versions that you can make of yourself. In addition to this is a winner chicken dinner for me. Not only is it a recipe, there is a double recipe, so this is a 2-for-1, and I am checking multiple off the list tonight. It comes with a crumb coat topping, and that is at the back of the book. She has an entire section dedicated to reusable ingredients and recipes that you might see in multiple different areas within her cookbook. Looking at the top, she says this is a fall-winter one, but I honestly think you could do this year-round depending on what you want. This would be a great brunch cake that you could take to a party with you. And overall, it's a long recipe, but that's mainly because there's a lot of cooling and some prep time and things like that. You will be needing a stand mixer or by hand. I think I'm actually going to do this one by hand using the handy-dandy whisk and a bowl. You will need a 9-inch springform pan, and that's about it. So, what am I going to do now? I'm going to be prepping my Pink Lady apples. I'm going to be peeling them, coring them, and cutting them into 1/4 slices and lightly cooking them in about 3 tablespoons of butter on the stove. While that is cooking down, I'm going to get together my wet and dry ingredients up until the point where I need to add the apples. Once I've done that, we are going to start assembling the crumb topping. So, catching in a little bit, and we will start going into how we are going to assemble the batter of this recipe. I cannot wait to get one step closer to baking with confidence and becoming a better dessert person. So I'm back and I have sliced all of my apples right here in my bowl. I have a pan on medium to medium-high heat, and I put my 3 tablespoons of butter in there. I'm just waiting for the butter to melt and then begin to froth. You don't have to necessarily do this step in advance, but it does guarantee that your apples are going to be fully cooked throughout the bake. So just doing a quick cook for about 10 to 15 minutes until they're nice and sauteed, and then pulling them off. You do have to make sure that you allow enough time for it to be cooled before it goes into the wet and dry mixture. So let's get into this while my butter waits to froth. We are going to put together our wet and dry ingredients. We do not actually fold in the apples until, let's see, I think it's at the very end, right before you do it. Yes, the cooled apples. So once you combine the wet and the dry, you then fold in the cooled apples. So this will give plenty of time. So I've already done my mise en place, as you can see over here, meaning I have pre-measured everything in advance. I'm going to set aside the crumble over here. We will get to that after we assemble these 2 categories. I have measured my all-purpose flour, and in here will go the baking soda, baking powder, and cinnamon and salt. So in that goes. And then we want to give it a quick whisk just to combine. that I combine this, I'm gonna check on my butter. It's looking pretty good. I think I might add it in just a second. Like always, grab a bowl that's just a little too small. So I think that's pretty good, and I'm gonna set that aside. Now, for the wet portion of this, all you need is egg, sour cream or creme fraiche, oil, and apple butter, and of course, sugar. So, let's see, it says in a medium bowl, whisk together apple butter, sugar, creme fraiche or sour cream, oil, eggs, and vanilla until smooth. So, I'm going to put my apple butter in. Whoop. And then the sugar. Butter is ready. Apples go in. Careful when doing this to make sure you don't splatter any butter on your hands. In they go. No need to add any seasonings or spices on their own. These are a sweeter apple, so they will release sugar and moisture on their own to help them cook. I'm going to give it a good once toss over in the pan to make sure that it'll be evenly cooked. If you're like me and you actually get ahead of yourself or you get distracted sometimes and you feel like your apples are going to brown before you have the opportunity to cook them, just soak them in water or spritz some lemon or lime juice on top of it to reduce the browning. But back to the wet ingredients. So I have my sugar and my apple butter. I'm going to put my eggs, my creme fraiche, and my vanilla in. Your creme fraiche, which I'm using sour cream, and eggs should be room temperature. Hello, you've decided to join us today. This is Fitz. He is my handy helper here in the kitchen. He always likes to be involved. I have my oven preheating behind us. I believe it has come up to temp, 350. And then 2 eggs. In they go. Just a quick wash of the hands, sauce of the apples. If you are someone who would rather do some of this stuff in advance, you could also cook your apples in a crock pot on low, because if you need to multitask, like maybe for an event or a holiday, this would be a great recipe you could do in parts and leave it relatively unattended. The apple butter and the sliced apples can be prepared in advance and stored, and so can the crumble. The crumble can last up to 4 days. So I have combined my wet ingredients all together, and I can set that aside. With this being done, she actually says to pour the apple butter mixture into the dry mixture. Now, like I said, picked a bowl that's too small, so you need to find a bigger bowl, and then we are going to put the wet into the dry, which the dry is considerably smaller than the wet. So here we go. Let's find a larger bowl, and I'll be back in 1 second. Found a bowl much larger than the other one. I'm going to pour in my dry ingredients that I combined just moments ago, and I'm going to make a well in the center. Very similar to making pasta dough. And then I'm going to, well, excuse me, I need to read that. What does it say? Sorry. Whisk from the center of the bowl outward. So, here we go. Into the well it goes. And whisk from the inside of the well outwards. I can hear my apples nicely simmering behind me. I'm probably going to end up turning them down in just a minute so they do not burn in the pan. This looks beautiful.
Doesn't it?
Multitasking. Give these a quick stir. I don't know about you, but I think cooked apples is one of the best smells that can fill a house. I have a little bit extra wet mixture hanging out in the bottom of my bowl, and I don't want any of that to go to waste, so I'm going to scrape down my sides. One of the biggest mistakes you can make while you're cooking is to not be measuring correctly, overpacking or underpacking, using liquid measurements and dry measurements, mixing them up with each other, and that can throw off your entire recipe. So, this is well combined and all over my thumb. So, that looks good. Nice and loose, very much like a thick bread batter. I'm going to be turning down my apples. They have a few more minutes to cook before I will be pulling them off the stove to cool. So I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to start working on the crumb. The crumb is located in the back of the book, and she offers a few different alternatives for how you want to do this. So I kind of took her suggestions and mixed it all together. And in my typical fashion, I did not read it because when you think of a crumb topping, you typically think of maybe a flour, brown sugar, cinnamon mixture, maybe some nuts, maybe not, a little bit of that kind of thing. Well, Claire being Claire, obviously was thinking outside of the box in one of the most ingenious ways, and she decided to have rolled oats in there. And I said to myself, of course, the one time you did not read the recipe, assuming that you had all the ingredients, you don't have it. But like Claire does all the time, is she provides suggestions and alternatives at the bottom of her recipes, which I think is one of the beautiful things about Dessert Person. Having these helpful little tips and reminders at the bottom of each of her recipes that just makes it a little more personal, a little more relaxed, and just more creative for the at-home chef. So what I have here is all-purpose flour, almond flour, light brown sugar, salt, cinnamon, and lightly chopped or finely medium chopped almonds. She said that you could use almonds as an alternative for the rolled oats, so I did a little combination of almond flour and chopped almonds. I'm not a big nut person myself, that's why I divvied it up, because I want the heartiness and the crunch of the almond, but I don't want so much almond that it is overwhelmingly nut flavor. Now, this is pretty quick and simple. You will be mixing this together and then using unsalted butter, preferably chilled, to then incorporate it, and then you can set it aside. So, I'm going to grab some butter and my knife that has walked away from me. Good thing I have more knives. And I'm going to slowly add it into my butter. You don't have to cut it up, but I prefer that. This is best done with your hands. It is a messier kind of thing. You can use a fork or maybe a food processor, but really feeling the texture of the crumb helps when you are mixing it together. I have let my butter get a little bit too soft here, I think, so hopefully it will come together quickly and without any problems. Ooh, my apples are really sizzling. Good, guys? I believe that is all the moisture coming off of the apples cooking down, and of course the delicious butter. This is not for the faint of heart. Literally, there is plenty of butter in this recipe, so just be aware when you are making this. But like many recipes, butter is a big factor. So I have sliced up my butter, and I'm just gonna kind of use my hands and pinch it together and kind of push the butter and pull the butter apart until it's kind of like thin little streams of it throughout, and it's gonna create this nice crumble effect. So when everything's said, and I will see you guys in a little bit, my crumb will be ready, the apples will be chilled, and we'll be assembling it all in the pan and ready to go in the oven. And I'm so excited to have this delicious dish in my house, and it's going to be smelling absolutely amazing in here in just a little while. So here we are, ready to assemble the cake all in one go. I have greased my springform pan 9 inches with butter, and I have lined it the bottom with parchment paper. I have mixed my ingredients together here, and I have my pulled apple slices over here. What Claire says to do is fold these into the batter after you have drained the liquid. I probably should move that out. I also caught myself before all of this happened off camera. That's my puppy. It's puppy playtime. I almost forgot the oil. So I'm going to fold this in until the apples are well combined into the batter, nice and evenly, and then once they are, we will put it into our prepared pan over here. This looks absolutely delicious, guys. I would highly recommend having a pint of ice cream on hand. One thing that my grandmother always had was a pint of vanilla ice cream, because you never knew when you had a guest over or an extra dessert on hand, having ice cream is the perfect thing to have, and vanilla is the best one. So I think this looks excellent, nice and well mixed throughout. So I'm going to transfer it into my dish. Looking fantastic. Getting all the ooey gooey goodness off the sides, every last bit. I'm going to spread it out evenly across the pan until it touches all the edges. Oh man, I can't wait for this. Now, she says to put the crumble on top that we've mixed before, and to make sure that you break up anything that is larger than, I would say, a marble size. So I'm just going to do a once over, make sure mine's nice and good to go. And I think it is. I'm just going to 1, 2, 3. And just kind of sprinkle it on. Ooh, making a mess. But what's new? What's a mess in a kitchen? Nothing. Alright, and it is good to go. It'll be in the oven for an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and a half until the crumb is nice and golden brown. Then it'll chill out on a wire rack, and then you will slice it according to plan. So, I'll see you guys when it is out of the oven and ready to be cooling. Wow, oh wow, does it smell amazing in my house. The apple crumble has come out of the oven smelling heavenly and beautiful golden brown. It is going to have to rest in there for a good while to cool off before I can pull it out of the spring form and put it onto the wire rack. All in all, this seems like a delicious, easy, and crowd-pleasing dessert. I cannot wait to dig into it. I'm going to whip out a tub of vanilla ice cream. Maybe if I'm feeling super adventurous, I will make my own ice cream to go with it, but I cannot wait to drop this off, share with people, and enjoy such a delicious dessert. I definitely think Claire has outdone herself with this one, and I am for sure one step closer to becoming more of a dessert person. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time on Baking with Confidence.